Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Families of incarcerated people depend on timely, accurate information to make decisions about safety, health, and contact. But when that information is missing, the risk shifts directly onto them. Those gaps raise a larger question about why transparency for prison families hasn't been treated as a core government responsibility. Here to share that impact is Heather Pirtle, president and founder of First Network. Heather, it is great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Let's begin by having you tell us a little bit about First Network. What is your focus? Why did you start it?
First Network is actually surrounded by the story of my own personal journey. My husband was sentenced to federal custody within the Bureau of Prisons. And as a prison wife, I immediately started turning to the public for answers. And it was really hard to find answers. And so at that point, I decided to become a resource myself. And therefore, I founded and created First Network, which basically is just bringing a voice to the issues that are currently there. I have an IT project management background. And so therefore, I was very interested in reports, numbers, what's happening, creating solutions to whatever the problems were that were existing. And I didn't really see anybody right now out there in the federal prison environment that had any true focus on real-time statistics and data. Everything from what I was able to see was 3 to 5 years old by the time it was able to be surfaced and then addressed.
You recently wrote an article where you described being asked a simple but really kind of heavy question by someone with a loved one in a federal halfway house. What did that question reveal to you about how disconnected families often feel from what's really happening to their loved ones inside those facilities?
Right now, every time I get asked a question, whether they're in a halfway house or in a facility itself, it's hard to find any answers. Everything that is portrayed right now to the public is so far removed from what's truly happening on the inside and on the ground itself. So right now, there aren't any real solutions or answers to any of the questions. So everything is all speculative. No one's able to give any direction or any answers to any questions because everything changes from facility to facility. There's no real true process. And as far as the integration into the halfway house itself, there's a lot of things that could be done prior to them even being released and some missed opportunities with time within the system itself.
Tell me more about where that communication system breaks down. Where does the system most often fail to give people clear, reliable information about conditions and care?
I think that right now, because everyone hears about the short staffing that's going on right now within the federal prisons, I think that trickles down and affects everyone, the staff themselves, as well as the inmates, as well as the family members. Because there is no, if there is a policy, half the time people aren't educated to even know what the policy is. Therefore, how do you implement something that you don't even know exists? There isn't a clear plan or direction of how to implement that and then how to educate everyone. So there's no system in place right now to provide that visibility in order to be able to even address the issues.
There are some formal oversight tools in place, like there are ombudsman-style roles and reporting channels. Based on what you've seen in your experience, are those systems working or are they falling short, or is it some combination?
I don't know of any oversight things that are currently in place at the moment. I know that the federal oversight bill was passed. However, it's passed on paper. It's never been funded. And I think that would be a true tool that people would be able to utilize. However, without funding, it just sits there, like I said, on paper. And that's part of the reason why we were founded, because we actually took that bill and created and built the system. So we didn't need $65 million in order to fund something. We did it based off of just family members creating the system. So as far as oversight tools that are in place today, if they exist, we do not know about them. So they are now creating a BOP coordinator type program, which came after the program that we built, which was very similar to what we built. However, there is no transparency. So if that program exists, then we, the people, don't know about it or even know how to use it. So again, the education is falling short.
And is that ombudsman process working at all?
Internally for the BOP, from what I understand, and me personally, I have used it. You send an email to them and they refer you to the BOP website page as a resource to be able to look it up yourself, or they will give you the policy itself. but the policy is not being enforced. So the policy, again, is just on paper.
I'm speaking with Heather Pirtle. She's president and founder of First Network. Heather, you've talked about this kind of missing data, and you talk about the system you built. Tell us what kind of data you've been able to pull together and how you share that with family members.
What we did was we launched a beta test within our personal private group, where we listed every single one of the federal prisons and issues that they may encounter, whether it's prison conditions, commissary, food, security. And we actually would have our members go in and report issues that were happening in real time. We have access to the data because we have access to the people that are inside. It can be utilized by staff, by inmates, by family members. And we just report issues that are happening in real time in every single facility. We have a dashboard that you can roll out and you can look at in real time to address issues and be proactive. Instead of actually having to be reactive, wait for lawsuits, wait for issues to occur, you can address them right there in real time. So you could utilize the tool. We've already built it. We've already tested it. We did it for over a year. And you can track and trend whatever's happening right now.
What are you hearing from family members who've used your tool?
Well, we all know that the proof is in the data. And so in order to be able to present an argument, it's hard whenever you're just one person presenting your case. But whenever you have thousands of people being able to report on the same issue, it provides real-time analytics to be able to show and prove the story. I find that looking at graphs is much easier to instantly see issues. You can see spikes. You can see which prisons per se may be having issues. If there's a lockdown or something like that, it will instantly spike on a report. So then you're able to just recognize immediately where issues are happening and then start addressing them.
You mentioned earlier the challenge with staffing in the federal prisons and how short-staffed they are, which of course creates stress and challenges amongst the workforce there as well. Does your data point to any trends related to those staffing trends?
The staffing trends right now that we're noticing, the majority, the issues would be probably primarily in processing the paperwork. Because they're short-staffed, they're not able to conduct maybe the team meetings on time. They're not able to process paperwork. Even as far down as administrative remedies, the channel and being able to move those through the system. Whenever it's exchanging itself through multiple hands, it's hard to be able to do that whenever someone's on vacation or short staff or a nurse is being pulled in to do paperwork, things like that. It just creates a backlog that affects the entire system. Now, I do feel like they are trying to address these issues. And I think that if they were able to utilize a platform similar to what we've already built, then you'd be able to start identifying the issues instead of relying on old forms of paper and being able to do it manually when you can do it digitally.
Have you had any interaction with Bureau of Prison leadership about the data and the trends and your network?
I did initially meet with the BOP support coordinators, and I had a few monthly meetings to show them the data that we captured during our beta test, and they seemed to receive it well and that it was helpful. I also did present this data to William Marshall himself and sent it to him via email, and he did respond and was receptive to at least looking at it and entertaining the idea. But I have not followed up with him to this point. So that's the only discussions that have been had.
What about with members of Congress? Obviously, there's a lot of interest there on the function of the prison system and how well it's organized and staffed. Any interest from the members of Congress?
We have actually been on the Hill and met with several different members of Congress, both House reps as well as senators, multiple times. We addressed the issues that are going on and how they voted 392-2 on the oversight bill. So we've tried to push their hands as far as being able to get this funded because they all agreed. So why are we not implementing it? But right now, they really haven't engaged. We've tried and we've gotten no feedback from them at all. We even went to the founders that wrote the bill itself, and still we're not able to get buy-in in order to be able to get it enforced.
Heather, you obviously have a personal connection and personal insight here with all of the data that you've collected, with the interaction that you have with other prison families across the country. What are the things that would really make a difference here in data, transparency, performance?
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is in order for a family member to feel like they're being heard, you hit it point blank. It's all about the transparency, being able to see, to know that they've been heard. If they're able to report an issue and see it or receive a response other than just a generic response, then it truly makes the person feel connected. And I think that we could all really work together to be able to solve the issues. I don't think it has to be an us against them or anyone like that. I look for ways to create win-wins. So how can we all work together? We all want the same solution, and that's to be able to bring our loved ones back home as soon as we can and to make them productive citizens in society.
Heather Pirtle is president and founder of First Network. Heather, thanks so much for joining me today, for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.